Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Number One Rule Fantasy Podcast. As usual, you've got myself, Tom, and my good mate, Jacko. How are we, mate?
Oh, very well this week. No Daniel again.
Yep.
I was close to cutting his scores out of the thumbnail.
I don't know why you didn't. But
I
anyway,
should have.
Definitely should have. But no Dan this week. He's got work commitments, so just us two. But look, we're the best two of the bunch anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Look, hectic round of fantasy this week or last week, Jacko. We'll quickly go through our scores. We've got a TRL game to go to, so we'll get through this one nice and quick, guys, for you. Again, it's around the time when you really got to be sending us your teams for any in-depth questions. Next week on Tuesday, we'll actually be throwing up a post for your questions for the podcast, so we'll get that going as well, Jacko. But
yeah, for sure.
Like we always say, send us your teams. But Jacko, give us a round last week. For you, I know you had to play a bit short last week. How'd we go?
Yeah, so last week, round 13, got a pretty decent score of 935, considering I was 2 down, so I was playing with 15, minus a centre. And then my interchange, I didn't have Smithy or Grant, and I decided to keep Best. And I still got a win in my league too, so 935.
935, 2 down, mate. That's pretty damn good.
Just have a quick squiz at my team then. Ponga did pretty good still. Hunt, Captain Haas, can't go wrong. And the Fog. Oh, how good's the Fog?
Mate, if for any of the OG listeners down there, the week he came in, I said, what was my number one rule? Get in Fogarty.
Yeah.
And he's made you some big cash. He's one of the big candidates for our cash cow of the year. So
yeah, so overall my rank's 3,734. So still holding in strong. What about you? How'd you go this week, Tom?
Mate, I had a pearler of a week. One of my better weeks in a long time. So last week I got a good score of 1,045. That was the 317th highest score of the round. So I know a lot of the guys were struggling to field a team, but I just decided I've got a pretty good rank. I went balls to the wall, and I traded out Grant and Madison, and got in McInnes and Regan Campbell-Gillard, which wasn't a great one.
Bit risky, yeah.
But he did play really reduced minutes in a very tough game of footy, so I'm hoping he will kick back, just because the reason of I might be trading out Mo, and I wanted that front rower cover spot, so that was my reasoning for that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, got a really big green arrow this week, guys. I'm into the top 1,000. I'm overall positioned 668th, so going very well. Hopefully I can get into that top 500. That'll be very good. But yeah, like yourself, mate, Fogarty, one of the surprises of the round. He's made 588k.
Put the C on him.
Put the C, and I wouldn't go that far. So look, last week captained Haas. McInnes was my vice captain, nearly did it, but you're not losing a whole lot. So yeah, really good week for me. Let's hope we can keep the ball rolling, Jacko?
Exactly. Let's quickly push through these team changes. So first game of the round, we're looking at Roosters Storm. Should be a good game following the clash earlier on in the year. Flanagan remains out of the 17. Mitch Orbison back into the back row.
Anyone that picked up Orbo, well done. It's usually the number one rule not to do, but he did very well.
Good. Yep. So coming off last week, Tedesco with a 20, pretty disappointing, but definitely not a sell.
It's just annoying now when he didn't have him, can get him in for cheap. But it is what it is. That is fantasy.
Yeah. And Orbo, like we were saying before, he got a 46, so not too bad. The Storm game, so Pap is returning, so I know you're a Pap owner.
Yeah,
you'll be pretty happy with that.
Held on to Pap, it was just a resting, so well done.
Yep. Riley Jacks replaces Cameron Munster at 5'8". I probably wouldn't be picking him up because I don't think he's
Munster 2 weeks
bottom.
max, yeah.
Dale Finucane returns at lock, and then Nico Hines and Tino on the bench. So Nico Hines, a potential buy-in as a cash out. I think he should be kicking this week, which would be good. Not that they're going to score hundreds of tries against the Roosters, but if you're looking for a cash out, that might play here and there, especially if they rest a few players towards the end of the year.
Which they like to do.
Yeah, they do. He could be a good cash out, but this week's the week if you're going to get him. So next game, Warriors Panthers.
Yeah, Warriors Panthers. So tipped the Warriors last week. Got a perfect week in me tipping last week. So
yeah, that's good.
Mate, I've been impressed with the Warriors. Probably not a whole lot to do fantasy relevant, but just in general, they're plugging on nice. The Warriors. I mean, you could have a lot worse halves if you want to get a cheaper half in Chance Harris-Tavita. I'll probably be avoiding though. Probably one of the only two, in my opinion, relatively, is in the back row and lock there in Jazz Tavanga and Tohu Harris, who just keeps pumping out the big scores, the big man. But Jazz Tavao, especially in this time when you've got a very limited amount of hookers with a lot of them going down, he's a dual position hooker, back rower. So he's absolutely gun, just knocking out 60s for fun. And if he actually gets... I reckon if you actually can get him up to 60 minutes, he could be anywhere from 70 to 80 range because he's a point per minute beast.
He's a definitely keeper.
Other than that, moving on, the Panthers have been absolutely cream of the crop. Cleary, it's just you've got to get him in. You've got to find a way to get him in. Jacko is just
must have hard.
You're going to be losing. He's pumping out 78s and he's gone for 100 twice, and you don't really see that a whole lot. So definite captaincy option. Crichton, if anyone got on the Crichton boat for centre, you could be going a lot worse there. Very consistent 40-point scorer.
I think if you've got him, hang on to him. You're pretty lucky, but
especially with this current centre crisis, mate. Appy Coruscant, if you were smart enough to hold on to him. And if you're desperate for a hooker, is not the worst option. Isaiah Yeo, absolute clinical. Wouldn't
Same
be
kind of boat.
Exactly right. Wouldn't be rushing him in, but if you've got him, happy days. Other than that, I think the main bit there is Jerome Lewis probably peaked. You're probably looking to upgrade him.
He's like you're saying, he's peaked. He could be upgraded. If you have to hang on to him though, he's a green dot. So
100%, and you
depends what
need
you've
all
got.
the green dots you can get. So moving on to the next game, Jacko. What's that one?
So we've got Eels Dragons. Maddo is set to return in the second row, which is good news for owners.
That held on to him.
He's got a break even of, I think he's got a break even of 100 flat, which is good for non-owners as well, because he's definitely not going to get 100.
Famous last words there,
famous
Jacko.
last words. Mitch Moses did pretty good last week with a 57. I was very happy to pick him up. His price kind of stayed the same, so if you haven't got him, this is probably the week to jump on before he starts getting more expensive. Dylan Brown had a big week, but
isn't it funny? Like you've got to have a discussion now. Like who would you rather get in, Dylan Brown or Moses? You didn't think you'd be doing that at the start of the year.
No, exactly not. I guess Moses is going to be kicking goals, and
he's about 100k odd cheaper, so I'd be going Moses for sure. But geez, Dylan Brown's gone well this year.
Yeah. Apart from that, not too much else happening at the Eels. How did Regan Campbell-Gillard go for you?
Didn't go too great. He only got a 41. Although I do still think hopefully they keep his minutes going. He only got 50 minutes.
Okay.
And he was getting a positive of 65 plus the week before, but it was a very wet, shitty game.
Yeah, it was a yuck game.
Definitely a good option, I think, Pod for the run home. But I wouldn't be rushing him in like I did. I just needed some front row coverage, so really team dependent with that one. But
exactly.
You could do a lot worse.
And moving on to the Dragons. So Corey Norman back at 5'8", Ben Hunter hooker, which is good news for Hunt
great
owners.
News. Not so much for McInnes, but
not so much for McInnes. So he gets pushed back to lock. But depending what happens, there could be reshuffles throughout the games, which there has been. Who else? Fuimeano in the second row.
I don't want to say Frizzell's been ruled out for about 6 weeks, I reckon, with a high-grade AC joint. Not Frizzell, sorry. Tarek Sims, sorry.
Sims.
So if you want to do that to yourself and get on the Tyrell for Maone, I will not be after he burnt me earlier in the year, but
he's yuck,
it's a smoky option if you're desperate for a back rower.
Exactly. Lomax got a 75, which was
best centre in the game.
A good bounce back. Pretty much have to have him in your centre or fullback position. McInnes got an 82, which, he's showing his class. Probably the peak player or the pinnacle player to get in at the moment, because a lot of people might not have him. And then Hunt coming off the back of a 54.
Pod option in the back row for Zell, Jacko, not a
55
fan.
last week. Yeah,
could do. I think there's better options. But
if
you're a Dragons fan, you like watching it. I mean, you could do a lot worse than Frizzell in the back row.
Yep. Every day. So. Big clash, Sharks and
our
Titans.
boys.
Both our teams up against each other. What do we got for the Titans?
Mate, Titans.
Few options in there.
Sneaky little options for the Titans. They've been playing some great footy.
They have been. It's been good. I like the Titans. Watching them win.
They showed up against the Panthers, nearly done the Roosters and done the Cowboys easy. So I reckon this will be a really good game.
Yep.
Obviously, one of the bigger bring-ins of the week, Brimson, absolutely pearl of a game, got a 70-odd on the weekend, so definitely gives you that. Well, Jacko, you had him at the start of the year before he did the back injury. So look, I think
I don't know. I think he's not. I don't know what he's going to be. Whether it's going to be a bit of a trap or I just don't think he's going to get.
I think he's definitely worth it one more week. He's not going to get 74 each week. So he's definitely got that DPP range. If you are desperate for that third wing fullback spot.
Yep.
Also, one of the main ones, Mo Fodawaker's been a bit disappointing, was killing it, but the minutes are obviously an issue there. So I'll definitely be holding Jamal Fogarty, one of the best cash cows. Like I said, it was my number one rule, and I'm really probably my best thing I've said on this podcast.
Oh, Fogarty, yeah. He's been good to watch.
And then I think the next one to watch is number 15 on the bench, which you don't usually say a whole lot. Peachy for a centre option, with Best going down confirmed for the rest of the year, most likely.
Yep.
Just comes on, and if you can play someone that comes on and plays that middle role in centre, I think you could do a lot worse as well. So
he's a bit sneaky on the bench. Like, that's kind of the biggest
thing. Yeah.
The other thing is too, if someone in the back row goes down at the Titans,
might even
there
slot
could just be
in.
massive changes, and if he goes back to centre, you're in deep shit.
Exactly right. But for now, if we can only go off what we've seen, Jacko.
Exactly.
And he's been playing consistent. Well, these are his last minutes: 55, 59, 47, 51. So if you get anyone that you can play in your centres that are playing those kind of middle numbers, I mean, definitely a good
Happy
option.
days, yeah.
So, Jacko, what about your Sharkies?
So the Sharks, not too much happening at the Sharks. Sean Johnson coming off a 66. Definitely a pod option.
He's just smoky, mate. If you want to look at smoky half, take some gambles. I reckon he's a really good guy.
Yeah, but apart from that, not a great deal of fantasy relevancy.
So mate, I couldn't agree more.
Same, yeah.
So I'll let you take the next game, mate.
Yeah, moving on. So Cows Rabbits, Drinkwater back in the side at fullback. Definitely steer clear of him.
Yeah.
Which kind of you're a Hamiso.
I am. I just can only
pushes him to the wing.
Pushes him to wing. I think that might actually help him out a bit, because if the Cowboys can actually start clicking a little bit with Drinky at the back, have a genuine number one option, he might be able to snag a try or two to get some points going.
Yep.
But I'll be looking to upgrade him as soon as I can. But green dots are just too valuable at the moment for me.
Yeah, 100%. In other news too, Granville back on the interchange with Reece Robson.
R.I.P. Robson owners.
So is he starting, Robson?
Robson's starting, but he only did 30 minutes last week and stayed
coming off a 16, so it's pretty disappointing for Robson owners. I know there was a few mid-season, but yeah, definitely sell.
Got to take time.
Coming into the pointy end of the season.
Lolo
with a 66.
Captain option every week if you want to play a bit risky.
Yep. And then another cash out option is Ben Hampton with a 20. I think Daniel was thinking about getting him last week, but he's going to be playing and he's cheap. So yeah, again, he's in the Nico Hines boat of a bottomed out cash.
Yeah,
cash
exactly
option.
Right. I think Jake Clifford's a bit unlucky not to be.
Yeah, exactly.
In that side, so that's the only issue with me. And he's in the reserve, so he's not injured. So just watch that. It's a cash out option, so it can't be that bad. So.
Yeah. And up against the Cows and the Rabbitohs. So Sewer back in the second row. I think he's definitely a sell by now if you haven't sold him. Latrell coming off a 53 is starting to find a bit more
trap.
Form. Yeah, I wouldn't go and get him. But
if you've got him, hold him. But
if you like roller coasters, get on him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Cookie coming off a pretty disappointing 51, I guess you could say, for owners. And yeah, other disappointing news for the Rabbitohs for Bailey Siridan owners. He got a 26. But he had reduced minutes.
Yeah, he went off with a knee complaint, and then Jack Johns was on, and then they really had the Broncos in hand. So I think he might have gone back on if necessary. So just definitely a hold. Hopefully he can kick on some more points.
Yeah,
but that was the reason. Yeah,
puts a bit of doubt in the owners' minds at the moment.
100%.
What about the Raiders Bronx?
Well, the amount of turmoil that's been going on in the Broncos, you can't tip them, can you? Unbelievable.
It's a shit show.
And now 10 people have apparently nearly broken COVID breach, so I wouldn't be getting any Broncos that you don't already have. So I'll start with Canberra. Look, Canberra, nothing too crazy fantasy-wise. Hoping that Starling was disappointing with the minutes that he got last week, but Havili with a bit of a tricep complaint. So he might be starting. Watch that space. If you can loop this week, he'd be a good option to loop just to see how many minutes he does get.
Yep.
But look, green dot, hopefully he goes back to that 50-minute rotation. John Bateman is a smoky back rower that I wouldn't be...
I think John Bateman's definitely on my radar, but probably another week or two when he drops price because, he's just a bit over at the moment.
But look, he's a tackle-breaking machine, and Canberra's got a somewhat good, decent run home.
Yeah.
Other than that, I wouldn't be selling Havili if you did get him, but... Starling, for his price, you just hope he keeps plugging along.
Yep, perfect.
Broncos, nothing really there. Again, unless you have someone already like your Haas's and your Carrigans, don't be getting any of these guys in.
Yeah.
Even Katoni, who's a genuine centre option is too inconsistent. And with all this, let's just be honest, with all the shit going on, I just wouldn't. Even David Fafita, I mean, he's the only one you could maybe make the argument for.
David Fafita is an interesting one. If you watch his stats, it's all attacking stats.
Yeah.
So when the Broncos come up against a team that's going
like the Raiders, for example,
that are going to grind him out, he might not get 6 tackle breaks and try.
They've got a horrible one. They had the Dragons next week, then they got the Roosters, then they got the Panthers. So I wouldn't be. It's a tough one. If you get David Fafita, I mean, enjoy the roller coaster, but it's just you really want consistent players at this point. You don't have the trades to be stuffing around. So that's with the Broncos. Nothing too else fantasy relevant, mate.
Yep. Spot on. Knights Seagulls. So what do we got? Not too much happening here. KP
King Ponga
103, which was pretty hectic last week. Kurt Mann with a 44, even though he played at the hooker or hooking role, and then went to the centres late in the game. Mitchell Pearce owners would be pretty disappointed, especially holding on to him this long. Coming off a 36, so I reckon towards the end of the season, if you've got trades, you got to make that hard decision whether to upgrade Mitchell Pearce or hang on to him.
Well, you could upgrade him to Moses, and it not even be that much of a price difference. That would be my suggestion.
That's what I'd be doing if I had trades.
Yeah.
Just a bit inconsistent at the moment. And the Seagulls, so the big standouts were the young rookie. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name.
Off the bench. Let me have a good crack at it.
Hamalo
Okatoa.
Yeah, that was it.
Number 17, guys. If you look at the team list, we'll probably butchered that. But played absolutely great on the weekend.
Yeah, he's got a mint break even this week. He's on the bench, but, again, he's a bottomed out player that you could cash down to if you wanted a really cheap option. Other players, Cherry Evans coming off a 57 as usual to power with 59. And
he's a bit like Teddy when he goes good. I did not see Cherry Evans do anything. And then he was on -2 after 10 minutes. Oh, just crazy. But he's one of the primo halves if you can get,
Yeah, and then another option I was looking at this week is Gerbo coming off a 63. So he's a bit of a smoky pod as well.
I'll tell you what, if you just want consistent 50s and low 60s, Gerbo's your guy.
Yeah,
100%.
I'd be going him over someone like Fafita who can get you 40 and then 70.
Where Gerbo won't get you anything below 53. So
yeah. Apart from that, what about the Tigers Bulldogs?
So last game of the round. So the Tigers should really be, after a very disappointing performance, hopefully bouncing back against the Bulldogs side. Avarillo finds himself. He was a cheap centre option. He's out. He had a hip complaint and don't know a whole lot about that. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. Besides maybe Raymond for Mariner, and you've kind of missed the boat on him, I wouldn't be touching any Bulldogs player.
Nah, even I'm on that kind of page as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, you could get a really... Nick Meaney, I guess you could maybe, but I wouldn't. There's better options. He's a really unique one playing fullback, but unless Raymond, I wouldn't be touching any of them. Going to the Tigers, we've got Jacob Little has come into the side. Wouldn't be rushing him in, but he's a good little draft option. I got him in my little free agents. Moses back to the centres. Tommy Talau back to the wing. Hopefully he can snag a try to this game.
That'd be good if he can pull 40s out of his ass every week.
Exactly right. No Twal again. So we're on Twal watch. So he's not here at the moment. So wouldn't be getting him in. And to be honest, he might even be a trade if you've still got him because you can only hold that much cash in the bank for so long.
Exactly. Yeah. Other
than that, Luciano Leilua, if you've got him, it's all right, but he's really got to score a try to score decently. So, and I'll give you a little sneaky pod. David Norfoluma for your last wing fullback spot. You could do a lot worse.
If you look at his averages, it's like up there.
Exactly right. So
it's like in the top 3.
If you're looking for a primo one, he is definitely an option. Other than that, I'd be steering here. McIntyre back to the bench with Garner to start as well. So that hurts McIntyre owners as well. So that's our round overview.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to who's hot, who's not, and then number 1 rules, Jacko.
Yeah, so for the trades this week, I'm probably not going to make any trades again just because I can afford to lose my head-to-head league.
And who's your head-to-head against this week?
You.
Yeah, so he might be conceding this week, boys.
I'm not really convinced on Brimson and Peachy. I mean, if you had to make a trade, I'd probably be looking at those 2 guys, depending on what position you need to fill. But apart from that, I thought I'd just go through the footy statistics from this week and look at the ownerships, who's hot, who's not. So the ownership amount or ownership percentage, the highest, whatever you want to say. Payne Haas at the top, Lomax, Teddy and Ponga, as you can see on the screen. More interesting though is who's hot this week. So McInnes at 2.3% or 2.37% buy-in. Brimo is in the second spot there, followed by Fafita, Hampton, and Coruscant at 1%. Lockie Lamb also on that list, another kind of cash out. So
Flanagan's not playing; it's not the worst.
yeah. And then looking at who's not hot, so everyone's kind of given into the Harry Grant hold. Best, Billy Walters, TPJ.
Let's leave that alone.
And then a few other ones on the list as well. So, yeah, what about your trades this week, Tom? Who you got?
Mate, unfortunately, I don't have too many left. I've got 5 personally. So, yeah, I think I'm at a necessity. I won't trade as well. The only real trade in targets I would be looking at, possibly, like just on a general look, would be I'd be looking at possibly the Peach, especially for best owners. I reckon possibly is a good option. But yeah, with 5 trades left and not much in the bank, I've really got to hold, and I can play 17 this week. So if you're playing 17, I think it's a good time to hold. Other than that, my trade in targets would be either the Peach, and then obviously McInnes, but I already do have McInnes as well, so the Peach is not too bad there. And then I'd be looking at a McInnes, but he does move back to lock. But I think he's just one of those guys, hooker, second row forward. You can play him in 2 spots. I mean, it's hard to look apart. So yeah. Other than that, yeah. So Jacko, quickly, who are your captaincy options this week?
I'm probably gonna go Haas, again. I'm kind of over, guessing and trying to pull something out of my ass. When I don't need to win, may as well just play it safe with Haas.
Yeah,
so.
my top options would be Haas, smoky option Cleary against the Warriors I've been thinking about. And if you want to get real risky, get real flirty with it, go Ponga, I reckon, is a good little option.
Go Fogarty.
Yeah, mate, honestly, you could do a lot worse. But yeah, Haas, I think it's Haas and Cleary for the run home, you reckon? I think just the safest
depending
options.
Who Cleary plays.
Yeah.
If he's playing a solid team, you can go with Haas and be pretty safe. So.
Yeah.
Or McInnes, I guess.
Is that correct? Jacko, you got a number 1 rule for us this week, mate?
Pretty similar to most weeks, but this week my number 1 rule is just be conservative. Like really, if you're running on 6 or less trades, you got to just pump the brakes.
Pump the handbrake.
You got to be making 1 trade a week, maximum if you want to try and make it in the long run. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment with 8 trades left. So what about you, Tom?
Yeah, mate, I've kind of taken a bit of advice off you there. I'd be taking it very easy, especially if you can play 17. Just take a deep breath. But on the other spectrum of it, I think if you want to go a bit risque this week, I might, just so full clarity, I probably won't do this myself, but I reckon Ponga's in for a big game against a depleted middle Manly. So I'll be saying pod. If you're looking for a pod captaincy, Ponga. But I might, just under full transparency, I probably won't be doing that myself.
Yep. Perfect. That pretty much wraps it up this week. Only a short episode because we've got places to be and people to see.
Yep.
But yeah, post questions below or messages on Instagram.
Send us your teams as well, remember.
And, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Catch you guys.